The government has always taken away rights of those who are most marginalized first.
What we assume is that everything's tracked.
It's Vice President Mike Pence.
Police in Chicago will soon be required to radio in whenever they draw their gun. It's the latest reform Mayor Rahm Emanuel's office agreed to include in a federal consent decree set to go into effect next July, which also includes changes to how police are trained, disciplined, and when they're able to use a weapon. New York's Attorney General has opened an investigation into whether the state's Catholic diocese worked to cover up the sexual abuse of children by priests. Attorney General Barbara Underwood cited the recent Pennsylvania grand jury report that documented more than 1,000 child abuse victims over decades, saying victims in New York deserve to be heard. India's Supreme Court has decriminalized gay sex. A 5-judge panel unanimously ruled that a Victorian-era law banning the act, with a penalty as severe as life in prison, was unconstitutional and discriminated against sexual orientation.
We've been invisible for far too long, and the legal validation that this brings is monumental.
Burberry says it'll stop using animal fur and donate clothes that don't sell. A July earnings report revealed the British fashion house burned around $37 million in unsold clothes and perfume in a year, which isn't unusual. Around 3/4 of textiles produced every year are burned or sent to landfills, and labels including Chanel, Dior, Louis Vuitton, Hermes, and Cartier have reportedly destroyed their unsold inventory to protect their brands.
Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee don't have a lot of conventional strategies for stopping President Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. They're out of power and outnumbered. So today, they turned to an unconventional strategy, publicly releasing Kavanaugh documents that were supposed to be for committee eyes only. Most of those documents come from Kavanaugh's time as a White House lawyer during George W. Bush's first term. Democrats think a lot of those confidential records are relevant, even damning. They also appear to think that releasing them is good politics. Cory Booker, a likely presidential candidate, released emails from Kavanaugh suggesting that he may have been okay with racial profiling on an interim basis. And then Booker openly dared committee Republicans to punish him.
I openly invite and accept the consequences of my team releasing that email right now.
I would defy anyone.
Mazie Hirono of Hawaii followed suit, releasing an email where Kavanaugh appears to question the constitutionality of federal programs tailored to Native Hawaiians.
I care about the integrity of the Supreme Court.
And Pat Leahy released documents suggesting that Kavanaugh, while in the White House, got access to emails stolen from Senate Democrats. These moves succeeded in derailing the hearing and making committee Republicans pretty mad. And that's probably about it. But there was one document leak that might actually move the needle. This one went to the New York Times overnight from an unknown source. It's an email from 2003 in which Kavanaugh was critiquing a draft op-ed. He wrote that he wasn't sure that, quote, all legal scholars refer to Roe as the settled law of the land, that the Supreme Court could always overturn it. That's significant, because saying that Roe is settled law is a way for anti-abortion judges to avoid answering whether or not they might act to make abortion illegal at some point. Listen to Senator Susan Collins, a key swing vote on confirmation.
He said that he agreed with what Justice Roberts said at his nomination hearing, in which he said that it was settled law.
Even though the email doesn't speak to Kavanaugh's personal views per se, it's enough to make abortion rights supporters think that he can't be trusted, and lawyers who've argued in front of him feel the same way. I talked to Bridget Amiri, the ACLU attorney who represented Jane Doe, the undocumented girl in government custody who the Trump administration tried to block from getting an abortion. Judge Kavanaugh played a key role in that case. How did Kavanaugh interpret the Jane Doe case?
Judge Kavanaugh's decision pushed Jane further into her pregnancy, authorized the Trump administration to continue to block Jane Doe, and as you know, obviously, the full Court of Appeals overturned Judge Kavanaugh's decision and allowed Jane Doe to have access to the abortion.
what do leaked emails say about Judge Kavanaugh's views on Roe v. Wade?
Judge Kavanaugh himself makes a very important point that we've been trying to make. Just because he might say that Roe versus Wade is settled law to someone like Senator Collins does not mean that he would not vote to unsettle it. When you are a Supreme Court justice, you have the ability to make law.
So for people who are not part of reproductive or immigration circles, how would you explain to them the importance of Jane Doe in that case?
The government has always taken away rights of those who are most marginalized first. And the Trump administration would take away our right to access abortion completely from everybody if they could. They didn't, or at least they didn't have that ability at the time that the Jane Doe case was happening, and so they went after the most marginalized, this group of unaccompanied immigrant minors who were at the mercy of the federal government because they were in their shelters. It's a bellwether. It's a canary in the coal mine of what could happen to other women in going forward in our country, whether they're in government detention or not.
The Trump administration gave official notice today that it plans to defy a judge's order reinforcing the limits on how long immigrant kids can be held in detention. Under a settlement called the Flores Agreement, minors can only be held for 20 days, unless they're in a detention center specifically licensed by the state to care for kids. The administration says it wants to be able to hold undocumented families in custody longer than 20 days, rather than releasing them or separating children from their parents. And it says the shortage of state-licensed facilities is what's getting in the way. So DHS is proposing that the federal government engage an unspecified third party to issue licenses, which means more federal facilities could start looking like the Berks County Residential Center in Leesport, Pennsylvania, the sole licensed facility where the government can already keep families in custody for long periods of time. So what is life like there? In 2016, a Honduran woman and her then 6-year-old daughter were housed together at Berks for nearly 8 months. The mother, who asked to be identified only as Victoria, described to Vice News the conditions inside one of America's most overlooked detention centers.
Llegamos muy noche al centro de Pensilvania, demasiado. Y las veo todas madres con hijos acá y grandes y bebés. Y me empiezan a decir que unas tenían 1 año y medio, otras 2 años. Dios mío santo, dije yo, ya no salí de este centro yo. En Pensilvania ya llegaban los guardias, nos tiraban las puertas, ¡boom! Las puertas sonaban. Nosotros ya sabíamos que ya era hora de levantarse, pero no es de esa manera de que nos tenían que avisar. Solo la misma comida nos hacían. Mi niña salió demacrada de ahí, delgadita, porque ella no comía. Nos dan chance de tomar aire, de estar afuera, pero solo momentitos. Tienen que estar los guardias ahí cuidando. En Pensilvania sí me la quitaban. Dice que no, que los hijos aquí uno tiene que acostumbrarse a dormir solos. Para mí, pues ella estaba chiquita y podía dormir conmigo porque a ella le gustaba dormir conmigo. Lo que hacía yo es que juntaba las 2 camitas y en medio ponía ropa, pero que ellos no vieran, para que ella me sintiera de que yo estaba ahí. Los guardias pasaban cada 15 minutos y se escuchaban los pasos, los sonaban más duros, los pies. Cuando la deportaban las familias, solo de noche lo hacían. A las 2 de la mañana ya era la hora de... Entonces ese temor nosotros lo vivíamos porque no sabíamos si a mí o a la otra nos tocaba eso de que nos íbamos a ir. Antes de venir aquí, ella muy alegre, muy platicadora. Y al llegar ya aquí a estos centros, me cambió. Tristeza, aburrida, sueño. Luego que, no sé, le estaba pasando un problema de que ella se estaba haciendo pupú otra vez. Había unos guardias que cuando mi niña se hizo pupú, le dije yo que si podía ir abajo a llevar a mi niña a lavarla o a bañarla. Me dijo, no, espérate. Y él se reía cuando mi niña se hizo pupú. Ya me estaba derrumbando, yo ya no tenía ni fuerzas ni nada. Dije yo, Señor, ya no quiero seguir adelante ya. Yo le dije a la abogada, hasta aquí nomás llego, voy a pedir mi orden de deportación. Las abogadas decidieron meterme a otra entrevista y me la metieron y hasta que logramos y ya me tocaba mi entrevista. Me dijo, tú tienes la salida.
In a statement, ICE told Vice News that it, quote, takes very seriously the health, safety, and welfare of those in its care, and pointed to a 2017 Inspector General report that found its facilities, quote, clean, well-organized, and efficiently run. The agency said it couldn't respond to Victoria's story without knowing her real identity.
Sí sufren los niños, mentalmente sufren y todo eso se les queda en la mente. Ella me dice, mami, ¿se acuerda cuando estuvimos allá, mami? Que estuvimos encerradas, que no comíamos, mami. Sí, todo ella se acuerda, todo.
What was it that your husband was doing when you knew you had to leave?
He wanted to control and manipulate every aspect of my life. He had sexually assaulted me on 2 occasions where I should have called the police on him, but I didn't. I did nothing because I was so scared.
Harper left her husband 2 years ago, and towards the end of their relationship, she says he secretly installed software on her phone that tracked her location, read her text messages, and recorded her calls. We disguised her identity because she is still afraid of her ex-husband.
He installed a device on my vehicle so that he could track my whereabouts, and he recorded my conversations.
How did you realize that he had installed this software on your phone?
He would confront me with it. He would play back the conversations because he would question me about who I talked to and what we talked about. I thought I was going crazy. I kept thinking to myself, is this even real?
A 2016 Government Accountability Office report identified more than 40 apps that can secretly track phone activity. A lot of these apps are marketed to parents who would want to track their children, but domestic violence shelters see a disturbing trend.
What we assume is that everything's tracked.
Really?
Because
you assume that
we
everyone's
assume
being
that
tracked.
everyone's being tracked. And
Liz Ortenberger runs Safe Nest, a Las Vegas domestic violence shelter that provides counseling and other services to 45,000 victims a year.
I mean, you just Google, I want to track my wife,
right,
and see what pops up.
Yes.
It's there.
And those apps really give you access to everything.
Yeah, so we've been talking mostly about tracking, but there are apps that will shadow the entire phone. So everything you do on your phone will dump into wherever I designate it to dump, or I have eyes on everything that's happening through that phone, including your camera.
Your camera?
Yep, and as long as there are people willing to pay for that kind of thing, they will continue to exist.
In most cases, all an abusive partner needs is physical access to the phone, the password, and 20 minutes to install the software. I installed one of these tracking apps, SpyZ, onto my own cell phone. It took me less than 10 minutes, and in just a couple hours, it was pulling my text messages and tracking my location. And so, do you find that there's a lot of people that do this?
Yeah, it's all the time, you know. I mean, how many grieved spouses are out there?
The spyware I installed runs in the background, invisible to the user. That means even if a victim suspects they're being watched, they'll have a hard time proving it. That's where a forensic investigator like Leon Murray comes in. I asked him to analyze my phone.
I've got the cell phone I'm gonna open up now. I'm gonna connect it.
So you're getting all of my personal information?
Oh, you'll see.
Doing forensic analysis on a cell phone isn't cheap. Murray can charge up to $200 an hour.
The dashboard on SpyZ shows you all the different communications.
Oh my God. It has my WhatsApp messages.
Yeah.
A picture of a dog there that my friend sent me.
Yeah.
And you have all my text messages.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
What else can you get?
Location history, browser history, everything to do with social media.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's a big business. I mean, the people are making a lot of money. It's getting better and more sophisticated every year.
People who install these apps onto their spouse's phone are typically in violation of 3 laws: the federal wiretapping statute, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and the federal stalking statute. But prosecution is rare, at least in part because detection is rare and difficult. It took Leon over 24 hours of analysis to identify Spizy on my phone. Some of these companies' websites have disclosures, saying the apps can't be used for illegal use, and some have ways to report abuse. But that doesn't stop people from doing it. We attempted to find out some extremely basic information about the people behind these apps. We asked 5 companies to provide the name of their CEO and the country they're based in. We also asked if they are aware of any illegal use of their apps. Only one, My Mobile Watchdog, got back to us. Its CEO, Robert Lauder, said that he is aware of My Mobile Watchdog being used for domestic abuse, but that they disable the account and refer the victims to law enforcement when notified. Although Harper has been divorced from her husband for more than a year, she still shares custody of their children.
So even after you've left the marriage, you're still feeling like you're being surveilled?
Oh, yes. Because I don't know if he's planted anything on the children. Children have cell phones, so their cell phones can be used as well.
The number of stalking apps is going up, and as smart devices in homes become more common, abusers have even more ways to control their spouses with technology. That means the problem isn't getting any better for Harper and other victims.
Do you think you'll ever be able to get to a point where you feel like you're not being surveilled?
No, just because of the person that he is. It's all about control, domination. I don't take his threats lightly.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the sexiest, most wonderful actors to get an award in a car in midair, Burt Reynolds.
We've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm westbound, just watch old bandit run.
Hello. I'm an anonymous senior official of Vice News Tonight. My face has been blurred and my identity protected because I'm here to tell you who's behind the anonymous op-ed published in the New York Times. I don't know, of course, but thankfully the internet has swooped in to blow this case wide open. See, you only need to read the op-ed to know who it could be. I mean, really read it. Look at the words. It's Vice President Mike Pence. Why? Because the word lodestar is used, and people have pointed out that Pence has said the word lodestar before.
Lodestar. Lodestar. Lodestar.
A man using words he's used before. Is this case closed? Not so fast. Could a man who looks at Trump like this really betray him? Speaking of amateur word whispering, it could be Jim Mattis. He's used the term first principles before, and he could have used it again. Maybe it's Director of National Economic Council Larry Kudlow, because he's not only used the terms lodestar and first principles before, he's also written about the steady state. Repeating one term from an op-ed might be coincidence, but 3? Don't tell me that's triple coincidence. Meanwhile, Omarosa, cursed by an old witch to forever be on her book tour, says she's dropped hints in her new book, Unhinged, out now. But don't stop there, internet. There's so many more senior officials who still have jobs and have also used words before. Betsy DeVos could have written it. Notice how she peppers her own speeches with the word the, which suspiciously appears more than 50 times in the op-ed. Or Dr. Ben Carson could have done it. No one knows what he's been doing for months. Maybe Trump has insulted Jeff Sessions one too many times. You tell me this isn't the face of a man who's silently fuming, telling himself he'll write a letter and rip it up later tonight. Of course, it could be any of them, and now every White House official is going to have to expressly deny being the author. But hang on, why are we limiting our accusations to just one person? That's some regular two-dimensional chess non-galaxy brain thinking. It could be a Murder on the Orient Express situation. Everyone could have taken turns writing a word, like a terrible game of improv. Or maybe the whole thing isn't even real. Maybe it's all a false flag psyop to make Trump paranoid. Maybe we'll never know who this brave author is. But to quote Mariah Carey, sometimes a hero comes along with the strength to grudgingly go along with it all, only to secretly write a blog post about how they're mad the president isn't acting like a conventional Republican. What a hero.
Can we agree that President Trump isn't of the utmost moral character?
Are people arguing other than that?
Evangelicals prioritize morality, and yet they played a huge part in getting him elected.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I think they're frightened at the speed at which things are changing culturally.
People are frightened. The violence, the nastiness, the threats on an open public stage, the vagina hats.